Navid. Navid, look at me. Yes, bigger. Offering.
شما از همه شما خواهش می‌کنم که با تیوتر بپیوندید. تیوتر یک شبکه جهانی است که میتونه صدای ما از اون طریق در جهان برسه. بس همه شما خواهش می‌کنم که در هشتگ استاپ هزاره جنوساید بپیوندید و هر کدامتان یک اکانت تیوتر باید امروز درست کنید و در اونجا هشتگ بزنید. بعضی شعارهاست که ما فعلا تکرار می‌کنم و شما خواهش می‌کنم که این شعارها را بعد از من تکرار کنید و در دوران برنامه هم ما از شعارها استفاده کنیم. Here are some words I'm just saying and I ask you guys just repeat after me. The first one is Stop Hazara Genocide. 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 The other one is recognize Hazara Genocide. 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 Now I'm saying Hazara rights and you guys just say human rights. Hazara rights. Hazara rights. Hazara rights. Please loudly. Hazara rights. Hazara rights. Hazara rights. Hazara rights. Hazara rights. Being a Hazara is not a crime. Being a Hazara is not a crime. Being a Hazara is not crime. Being a Hazara is not a crime. Being a Hazara is not a crime. Stop Hazara Genocide. Stop Hazara Genocide. Stop Hazara Genocide. دو شعار فارسی هستم. نسل کشی هزاره ها را متوقف کنید. 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 ما میگم نسل کشی جنایت است. شما بگید جنایت است. نسل کشی جنایت است. Stop Hazara Genocide! 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 Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I begin today by acknowledging the Ghana people as emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. My name is Hazara, and I'm the president of ASA, the Association of Australian Tertiary Students from Afghanistan. Before we officially begin, I would like to add please note that the running sheet has already been organized, and those who are speaking have got names on the list. I apologize to those who would like to speak today. I request you all to please ensure this gathering goes smoothly and always adhere to the instruction of organizers. Thank you. Today, we stand together with people from over 77 cities, holding peaceful demonstrations across the globe to raise awareness about the ongoing attacks on Hazara people. Last Friday, once again, the Hazara people were re-traumatized when a terrorist attack on Kaj Academic Learning Center in a predominantly Hazara neighborhood of Kabul, Afghanistan, killed over 56 students and injured over 112. This indicates that this attack is not an isolated event, but one of a series of targeted attacks against Hazara people in Afghanistan. In April 2022, a bombing killed 31 worshippers and injured 87 people from the Hazara ethnic group at a Shia mosque in Mazar-e Sharif. Another bombing in October last year also targeted a Shia mosque, this time in Kunduz. At least 100 Hazara worshippers were killed or injured. The trend in escalating systemic and discriminatory violence suggests it's likely to continue in a more frequent and aggressive manner. The world must recognize that the Hazara Genocide exists and it is ongoing. We now begin the demonstration by inviting our first speaker of the day, Mirza Najafi, to enlighten us with a poem. Mirza Najafi.
Stop Hazara Genocide.
امروز آمدیم همه با هم صدا شدیم و شعار دادیم Stop Hazara Genocide. تا و هدف از این گریه همایی امروز این است که پایان باشد برای اتفاقات در طول تاریخ برای مردم ما اتفاق افتادن. نه تنها اتفاق اخیری که برای اکادمی کاج افتاد، بلکه اتفاقی که در از 131 سال پیش آغاز شده و تاکنون ادامه دارد. آزار قوم کشتن انسان دیگر بس است، ویرانگری به ملک خراسان دیگر بس است. گلغنچه های عاطفه فریاد می کشند، تاراج باغ و دامن بستان دیگر بس است. ذبح کبوتران حرم نیست در کتاب، جور و جفا و بلبل بستان دیگر بس است. بازی به جان طفل دبستان دیگر بس است. عرش خدا به لرزه در افتاده هشدار، آتش زدن به مسجد قرآن دیگر بس است. در شهر انتحاری و در روستا تفنگ، ترس مدام حال پریشان دیگر بس است. کوهسار و دشت و جنگل و انبوه از تو باد، وحشیگری و شهر و خیابان دیگر بس است. تنها نجور و ظلم به آدم بود خطا، رم دادن غزال بیابان دیگر بس است. بیگانه ز عاطفه و رحم از نخست، لیکن جفا به خواهر گریان دیگر بس است. از آه سینه سوز یتیمان بکن حیا، سیلاب اشک پرشرر دیدگان دیگر بس است. دزدیده ز کاسه مردم نواله را، لیکن فروش همت دهقان دیگر بس است. با نام دین فریب مسلمان دیگر بس است. نازش به تاج تخت سلیمان دیگر بس است. سرمایه سوخت ریشه و بنیای اعتقاد، مکر و ریا به ساحت ایمان دیگر بس است. جنگ و فساد و فتنگری سوخت کشورم، دامن زدن به آتش بحران دیگر بس است. Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide! Hazara right is a human right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Najafi. The next speaker to enlighten us tonight is Hussein Rizayat. Please welcome him.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear friends, fellow community members, ladies and gentlemen, today we are here too, again and again, to show our solidarity with families and remaining of those girls and boys killed at Hajj Educational Center in Kabul on the 30th of September this year. This gathering today in Adelaide, South Australia is one of the hundreds of similar protests around the globe, where people clearly expressed their frustration and abhorrence on the brutal target killing of Hazaras in Afghanistan and elsewhere. We are talking to three groups of people today in this gathering. Our Afghan compatriots, including Pashtuns, Tajik, Uzbeks, and others, the international community, and the families and survivors of the martyrs, to all Afghan countrymen and women. Unfortunately, the area that we call Afghanistan today has been built on violence, oppression, and mass killings. Between 1881 and 1893, Hazarajat were targeted under the name of the Holy War of Jihad. The soldiers and volunteers who gathered from all corners of the country were allowed to kill Hazaras, take their children as slaves, and own their lands and belonging as ghanimat. As a result of that, 62% of their population have been killed, and the girls and boys were officially sold as slaves, and their lands and properties were given to the soldiers of jihad. This brutal and barbaric mass killing has been considered as largest in scale and deepest in sorrow in 19th century around the world. A similar approach has been taken against people of Nuristan, Turkestan, Kashayis, Ghaljais, and others. Since then, this wound never healed, and the people of Afghanistan never felt harmony and cohesiveness. Even further, in recent years, an evil idea that has been produced outside of the borders of the country and has made its way inside the country has been made the situation worsen. This evil thought has targeted the existence of Afghan people and made us fight each other in the name of religion, language, and ethnicity. History has proven that where there is cruelty, injustice, and brutality, there will never be peace, happiness, harmony, and security. let us ask ourselves, O Watandaran, let us ask ourselves as a resident of that country, how long we continue this cycle of violence and killing? Isn't it time to think for a moment, and instead of killing enmity and cruelty, we should practice compassion and patriotism? Isn't it time to cut off foreign interference, apologize, and comfort those who were victims of violence and genocide, accept ethnic, religious, and linguistic diversity, and strive to build a united, safe, and prosperous country? Otherwise, we make our country a hell and uninhabitable for any member of our society, as we can see today. To the Australian community, the Australian government, and international communities, every day, before our eyes, innocent children, innocent civilian women and men are targeted and killed just because of their ethnic, religious, and linguistic affiliation. This is against our universal values and principles. As a human being, as a human being, we are obliged to do everything in our power to stop this inhuman target and treatments of defenseless people. Therefore, we as Australian citizens ask our leaders and our government to utilize its networking and resources to advocate for the recognition and the stopping of mass killing and genocide of Hazaras by international court for the crime against humanity, and provide adequate aid to those in urgent need of humanitarian aid and protection. To families and remaining of martyrs, dear father, mother, brother, sister, and Hamvatan, we and the whole world are ashamed of your mountain of grief.
Just sort of move back a little bit,
We are
just so we can move
ashamed
into the walkway.
of your loneliness and defenselessness. We are ashamed that compassion, humanity, and ethics are dead in Afghanistan and even in the world. We have seen that every day you carry the bodies of your loved ones and bury them with regret and sadness. But we shamefully just watch and do nothing. Although we are incapable of feeling and understanding the depth of your sorrow, today we have gathered here in line of thousands of our people around the world to announce that this is enough. Let us leave our differences aside and unite our voices for the sake of our defenseless people and shout together, "Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Recognize Hazara Genocide! Recognize Hazara Genocide!"
We want justice. Stop Hazara Genocide. Stop Hazara Genocide.
Thank you so much, Mr. Razayat. I would now like to invite Kate Linney, the Campaigns and Communication Manager for Welcoming Australia, to share a few words. Kate Linney.
I'd like to echo that the lands that we meet on are the lands of the Kaurna people, and that sovereignty was never ceded. This is and always will be Aboriginal land. I'd like to apologise for my voice. I did a lot of yelling on Saturday and it's still recovering, but hopefully you can hear me. So for those that I haven't met before, my name is Kate, and as mentioned, I work for Welcoming Australia. Welcoming Australia is a non-partisan movement and organisation committed to cultivating a culture of welcome. Together we work to build a future where no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter the language you speak, the religion you follow, no matter who you love, no matter how you arrived here, and no matter your background, you deserve the opportunity to belong, to contribute and to thrive. And we are proud to stand with the Hazara community, today and always. Just weeks ago we gathered on the 25th of September to recognise Hazara Black Day, remembering the brutal genocide and oppression of our Hazara brothers and sisters, and calling on our leaders and the international community to recognise Hazara Genocide. It is deeply unfair that we gather again once more so soon to once again grieve another devastating tragedy. Nothing can undo this pain and injustice. It is deeply unfair and we mourn this loss together. And it is right that we do this together. There is strength in coming together to lament, to mourn, to grieve. There is strength in our shared demands for action. We know that Hazara communities are still disproportionately targeted. We know that under current rule, the Hazara community are more at risk than ever before. We stand with you. Globally, in over 100 cities, we stand with you. For Mazia, for Hajar, for each and every precious life lost. I desperately want for this to be the last time we gather like this. The last vigil brought together to honour and mourn the lives lost. The last time we read and remember names of our dear siblings who should have had the opportunity of a different future. It is deeply unfair that we know their names only in light of their death. Instead, I want to be hearing about and celebrating their lives as they graduate, start careers, make advances in medicine and science, write books, produce poetry, lead movements for global change. And we will stand with you until that moment. I want to take a moment as well to acknowledge the leadership and solidarity of Kurdish, Hazara, Iranian and Afghan women, particularly over the last few weeks. You continue to lead, to teach and challenge us. And together, all of us, the entire Australian community, will stand in solidarity with you to call on our leaders for an increase in humanitarian visas and to increase and expedite family reunion. For our leaders to grant permanent safety to thousands languishing in the cruel limbo of temporary protection. Because we know it is not safe to return, we can and must do more to provide safe harbour for Afghans, particularly Hazara communities fleeing persecution. We recognise the escalating humanitarian crisis, and we're also calling on our leaders to stand to protect Afghanistan's most vulnerable through humanitarian aid and other ways. Because standing in solidarity, showing up, providing support, this is who we are, this is who we can be, and this is who we will continue to demand that our leaders become. We know the immense contribution the Hazara community has made to the fabric of our nation. Your influence and participation and belonging makes our communities better. For this reason and so many more, and simply because of our shared humanity, we stand with you. So together we show up, we demand more, because we see you, we stand with you, forever and always. Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Thank you so much, Kate. Hazara people make up a large portion of the refugee population in Australia. Hazara people first came to Australia to seek asylum in significant numbers in the 90s and 2000s. Currently, there is an estimated 71,000 Hazara people that call Australia home. Many of them citizens and contributing to Australia's social, cultural and economic growth in places such as Dandenong in Victoria, Adelaide in South Australia, Western Sydney, Brisbane and across the country. Hazara people in Australia are deeply connected with part of Hazara people in Afghanistan through familial relations and community links. I would now like to invite Hussain Mahmoudi to share a poem with us. Hussain Mahmoudi.
باید و دنبالت بگردم. عزیزم ساق همچو کوکبت کو، مداد ناز و عشق شبت کو. چه شد اون بازوان نازنینت، کجا افتاد دست مرمرینت؟ چرا دختر الان گوید شکسته، چرا خون روی کیفت نقش بسته؟ فدای کفشهای پاره تو، فدای سرخی رخساره تو، فدای اون لبانی روزدارد، فدای نرگس مست خمارد. گل من تشنه بودی آخرین بار، بیا بابا که آمد وقت افطار. کجا افتاده ای جانم فدایت، بیا در خانه اینجا نیست جایت. ندارم تاب جای خالیت را، بیا باید ببافی خالیت را. شدی صد پاره چون آیم به سویت، سرد کو تا ببوسم من گلویت. جدا شد دستکت بابا بمیرد، چه دستی بعد از این دستم بگیرد. جدا شد پایکت نیلوفری من، چه سان لیلی کنی پس دختری من. دیگر عطرت نمی پیچد به خانه، مگر از تاریکی سویت زشانه. چه بیرحمی چه خونخواری تو ای خصم، نه دینداری نه آینداری ای خصم. بگو از طفل معصومم چی دیدی؟ بگو از طفل معصومم چی دیدی که همچو گور جسمش را دریدی؟ چه زاری ها از این بیداد کردم، علی شیری خدا را یاد کردم. علی شیری خدا صبرم بدی، علی شیری خدا ای شاه مردان، بلا از خطه کابل بگردان، بلا از خطه کابل بگردان.
Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide!
It's killing Hazaras. In the words of Elie Wiesel, a genocide survivor and one of the greatest thinkers and advocates for the prevention of crime of genocide, those who are the victims and rehabilitate the perpetrators of the genocide. Denial of genocide is the final stage of genocide. It is what, as I said before, many in the world call as double killing the victims. Denial of the murders also denies the dignity of those victims who have been, brutally killed as a result of this perpetration. No matter what the world would say, no matter what our compatriots will, murky the water, denying the genocide of Hazaras is a crime. We cannot remain indifferent. Our fellow Hazaras, we cannot remain indifferent to what is happening to our fellow Hazaras in Afghanistan. And to our compatriots, our Hammatans, you cannot remain indifferent and silent to what is going on in Afghanistan. Every life matters. The life of our
to be in tears knowing that they aren't forgotten and left in a state that we're privileged to not see. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Madina Jafari, and recently, in fact a month ago, I returned from Afghanistan after spending almost 6 months there, working on personal projects and doing a bit of reporting. Today, I want to give you all an insight into what life is like for the people in Afghanistan, in particular girls and women, and most importantly, what life is like for those belonging to an ethnic minority such as the Hazaras. I'm sure you're all wondering what in the world I'm wearing today. What I'm wearing today isn't just an abaya and a hijab I and my Afghan sisters wore daily in Afghanistan.
This was a reminder of the numerous rights that have been snatched away from the girls and women in Afghanistan. It was a reminder that they couldn't choose what to wear. It was a reminder that they couldn't be and express themselves freely. It was a reminder that every decision of their life was decided on their behalf in their absence. We saw this with the schools closing. We saw this with the women's ministry shutting down. We saw this at the Loya Jirga, where men were requested to represent women on their behalf at the Majlis. For me personally, I never felt imprisoned by the hands of the Taliban for wearing this on the daily, because I knew I wasn't permanently trapped in this situation. I always knew that if it got too much, I could just leave. But unfortunately for the girls and women living in Afghanistan, this option was and is far from the reality. This piece of black clothing remains a constant reminder of the dreadful situation they're faced with in 2022. And I witnessed this daily with my very own cousins, Shabnam, Suraya and Adelaide. Shabnam, 14, hasn't gone to school for 386 days now because her girls her age are banned from attending. Afghanistan is now the only place in the world not allowing girls to go to school. 386 days and no legitimate reason as to why girls can't return. This should be a wake-up call for every human rights activist, but it isn't. Every day I would watch Shabnam go through her books in hopes of returning to school so she could continue her education. I would constantly hear her say how she perhaps is destined to return to our ancestral land in Jawari to become a chepor, a shepherd. No 14-year-old should ever feel this way, but the 14-year-old girls in Afghanistan today do. Suraya, 18, a high school graduate, she's currently doing nothing. Being nothing because she simply doesn't have a choice. She was probably the most outgoing, energetic, and driven person in our family. She was. Today she's robbed from her freedom, robbed from pursuing her education, robbed from dreaming of becoming a reporter. No one deserves to be robbed from dreaming of a better future. But today, millions of dreams like Suraya's are shattered across Afghanistan. Adelaide, 28, a university graduate, used to work, but now is not allowed to work because she is a woman. Because she is a woman. But it isn't just the lives of girls and women that have changed drastically over the past year. The lives of men have changed as much. Most men are now unemployed, unable to feed their family, unable to send their children to school, the basic things every parent would want to provide for their family. These are common stories shared amongst every Afghan in Afghanistan. But for the minority groups, the struggle is far worse and the consequences of being one far greater. For centuries, religious and ethnic minorities such as the Hazaras, who make up the third largest ethnic group and the largest religious minority due to the Shia Muslim faith, have been subject to ongoing persecution. Their different beliefs and obvious features have made them easy targets, be it under the previous regimes or the current power holders. Our schools, our worship places, our streets, and even our maternity wards have become grounds for violence and bloodshed. For decades we've moved body parts into graveyards and at times have buried empty coffins because someone's sister, someone's brother, someone's daughter, someone's husband, and someone's wife's body couldn't be found in one piece. I experienced this fear of not knowing if I was returning home safely every day. The streets of Barchi, the one street in Golai Dawakhana where there's been a number of attacks, the bus, the van, the taxi, the mosque. The feeling that it was going to happen any second, it was gut-wrenching, it was terrifying. I personally come out of the buses seconds after getting on a number of occasions. I've had a Talib point a gun at me, I've had a Talib tell me where to to sit inside my own family car. I've seen my own family members hide their Hazaraness so they wouldn't get caught. This is something that we all have in common, and we've been hearing from our families back home. This is nothing in comparison to what my people, my Hazara people, have faced and continue to face every day. Just this year alone, we've seen a number of attacks in Hazara neighbourhoods. The latest tragic attack on Kaj Education Centre, which left 54 dead, is a reminder of the continuous genocide the Hazara people face in Afghanistan. I remember speaking on this very stage 9 years ago about the same issue. And here I am talking and asking for the same thing, the same thing. The genocide of Hazaras have been neglected for far too long, and the international community, as you can see, has essentially become indifferent. It is about time the genocide is recognised. The Hazara community in Australia requests that you stand with us and show us your solidarity, not with your words, but with your action. A lot has been said at every protest and every rally, but only little has been done. We urge you to break the silence in Afghanistan by joining our community in condemning the atrocities inflicted upon the Hazara community in Afghanistan over the past couple of decades. For Australia, what that means is recognising the urgency to bring at-risk Hazaras to safety, especially the family members of Australians in Afghanistan, be it a citizen or someone on TPV or chef visa. For my media colleagues present here today, I urge you to not forget the Hazaras when the chaos settles down and when this demonstration is over. I urge you to investigate and write stories on our obligation for the Hazaras in limbo, in our detention centres, for the Hazaras on TPV and on chef visas, who cannot enjoy life and as an Australian citizen, let alone sponsor their families. Let us not wait for another major bloodshed to come together again and repeat what we've been repeating over the past couple of years. Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Recognise Hazara Genocide! Recognise Hazara Genocide! Thank you.
Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide!
به نشان و به زیبا به سرش تکی بوده غیر زادگی نشان و نام بریشک دره غیر زادگی نشان و نام بریشک دره Bezi boy ku bezi boy nablu tora kaydere Bezi boy ku bezi boy nablu tora kaydere Shal piroy mo qashanga dil damoy mo qashanga Lawz zibo raqami tora guftoy mo qashanga Lawz zibo raqami tora guftoy mo qashanga از امید از فردا نمی ترسی میبوسمت در
Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Recognize Hazara Genocide!
Thank you girls for the heartfelt singing. Now I would like to invite Zainab Mazari, the daughter of Baba Mazari, to share a few words with us. Zainab Mazari.
به نام خداوند آگاهی برابری آزادی.
وطندارا زینب مزاری صحبت کنه آنلاین ها دقت گوش کنید باشه.
سلام و احترام و تمام مردم عزیز، آگاه و عدالتخواه. از سیدنی تا کالیفرنیا در 150 شهر جهان این حرکت خودجوش و عدالتخواهانه مردمی با پیام روشن انسانی که نسل کشی هزاره ها را متوقف کنید، نشان آگاهی همبستگی نسل امروز ما، پشتیبانی آگاهانه و مسئولانه ملیت‌های شریف پشتون، تاجیک، ازبک، ترکمن، بلوچ و دیگر گروه‌های قومی و مذهبی و همچنان هنرمندان محبوب افغانستان که نشان از همدردی و حمایت همه‌جانبه از حرکت عدالتخواهانه هزاره‌ها جای تشکر و تحسین دارد. همچنان از تمامی فعالین مدنی اجتماعی سیاسی در کشورهای مختلف جهان که در این دادخواهی انسانی همراه شدند کمال تشکر و قدردانی را داریم. امید است که این اعتراضات و دادخواهی‌ها به صورت منسجم و دوامدار در چارچوب قوانین پذیرفته شده بین‌المللی و حقوق بشر.
Being a Hazara is not a crime! Recognize Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide!
Thank you so much, Mr. Rizwani. Hazara people have long been the target of sectarian violence, systemic discrimination and persecution in Afghanistan. Never knowing safety whilst the Taliban have reigned. These recent attacks mark a worrying and dramatic escalation of violence against the Hazara people. We will not forget the lives lost, the families who are left mourning for their children. We will say their names to honor their innocence and bravery. However, note that those who are without a name could not be identified. البنین، ریحانه، فرشته، لطیفه، بهاره، سکینه، نونین، زهرا، مهدیه، راحله، انیسه، سمیرا، شکیبا، نونین، شبنم، بختیار، بلقیس، شگوفه، همیرا، شگوفه، سمیرا، نسرین، حسد، شکیلا، بسویبی، شکیبا، ستاره، زینب، نیلوفر، شکریه، لطیف، حمیدالله، مینا، نرگس، عزیز، سریا، گلسوم، Basira, Sabira, Marzia, Nadia, Muhammad, Nasim, Bahara, Mahdia, Wahida, Nazanin, Shahbanu, Husniya, Fatima, Munir, Ahmad, Marzia, a 16-year-old girl who was killed in this brutal attack, had written in her diary, "Electricity is not an excuse. I must continue with my studies and I must prove that I'm not a coward. This is not a difficult job. I'm stronger than this. Marzia can do it. And I believe in her from the bottom of my heart." Indeed, we will continue to strive for education, for power and for peace, so that the next Marzia is not killed with her dreams, but instead she will stand tall in front of us and make us and her family proud. Proud to be a woman and proud to be a Hazara. Now to end the demonstration, Adelaide Zamini, the public officer of Fatima Zahra Mosque organization, will reiterate our objectives for the series of demonstrations that have been taking place around the world. Ali Zamini.
Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Recognize Hazara Genocide! Being a Hazara is not a crime! Being Hazara is not a crime! Stop Hazara Genocide!
Any other fellow human beings, not just Hazara, but any human beings suffering, losing hope, children with no childhood, no education, having access to no education is purely devastating and horrible to witness. And it certainly reminds us, the public here, of how lucky and fortunate we are to live in a country like Australia. I feel sick. We feel sick every time there's an attack, there's a bomb blast, there's certainly a bad news for the Hazaras. The Hazara people are sick of being on the receiving end for over a century now. We want our safety ensured. The Hazaras in Afghanistan, they want their safety ensured, which the previous governments could not provide, and neither can the current so-called government provide. The Taliban are not capable of running a government. They're not capable of running a modern government. They do not have the resources or the capacity to regulate Afghanistan's economy or incorporate the rule of law in their government. It is about time to prioritize bringing the families of thousands of Hazara Australians. There are thousands of hard-working, law-abiding Hazara refugees across this country who are on temporary protection visas and bridging visas and have been on it for a number of years and having family members over in Afghanistan. Our family members, Hazara family members in Afghanistan, are in more danger now and desperately need to be in a better place now. There has been no better time for the federal government to use their power to help fellow human beings who are desperately in need of help and assistance and migration. I will briefly summarize and outline the resolutions for today's gathering here in Adelaide and across Australia. The Hazara people of Afghanistan are under sustained violent assault because of their ethnic identity. These attacks have the hallmarks described in Article 2 of the Genocide Convention of 1948 and have led international organizations like US Holocaust Memorial Museum to raise the alarm on the Hazara Genocide. Hazara people of Afghanistan share close ties with Australians, including family ties and common values such as the love for education, women's public participation, fairness, justice, and human rights. Australia spent 2 decades in Afghanistan helping the people of Afghanistan strengthen these values and found eager partners among the Hazaras. Genocide Convention emphasizes global responsibility for the prevention of genocide, and Australia is a state party to that convention. Whereas the ties of kinship, shared values, the special 20-year relationship with Afghanistan and the membership of Genocide Convention give rise. I'll just wait for the truck to go past. Thanks for your patience and understanding. Now, the special 20-year relationship with Afghanistan and membership of the Genocide Convention give rise to obligations, moral and legal. We call on the Australian government to take the following actions immediately. I repeat, we call on the Australian government to take the following actions immediately. Number one, save Hazara lives by expanding the humanitarian program for Afghanistan and urgently processing the humanitarian visa submitted since August 2021. I repeat the number one, save Hazara lives by expanding the humanitarian program for Afghanistan and urgently processing the humanitarian visa applications. Number two, save Hazara lives by urgently reuniting Hazara holders of TPV and SHEV visas for their families and expediting their transition to permanency. I repeat that again, save Hazara lives by urgently reuniting Hazara holders of TPV and SHEV visas for with their family members. And number three, exercise is Article 8, power as a state party to the Genocide Convention to call upon the competent organs of the UN to take action under the UN Charter for the prevention and suppression of acts of genocide. Work with like-minded countries to press the Taliban regime in multilateral engagements on their obligations towards the Hazara people. And lastly, but not the least, apply Magnitsky-style sanctions on the Taliban, the Haqqani network, and all the other organizations responsible for or complicit in the Hazara genocide. We want them to sanction the Taliban in any way possible. We call upon the Albanese government to realize the above goals. We also call on you to raise our voice in the parliament to help stop genocide, stop Hazara genocide. Thank you. Stop Hazara genocide! Stop Hazara genocide! Stop Hazara genocide! Stop Hazara genocide! Recognize Hazara genocide! Recognize Hazara genocide! Recognize Hazara genocide! Recognize Hazara genocide! Stop Hazara genocide! Stop Hazara genocide! Stop Hazara genocide! Stop Hazara genocide! Recognize Hazara genocide! Recognize Hazara genocide! Recognize Hazara genocide!
وطندارای عزیز، یک چیز دیگه فراموش نکنید که تظاهرات در اینجا ختم نمیشوند. یک طوفان توییتری راه اندازی شده، قبلا هم اشاره شده او که هر کسی توییتر نداره لطفاً یک حساب توییتری مثل حساب فیسبوک و اینستاگرام است، ساده یک حساب توییتری باز کنین و نمی استاپ هزارا جنوساید در اونجا توییت کنین. این خیلی مهمه و تظاهرات از ما و شما ممکنه از اینجا خلاص شود و ادامه پیدا کند در توییتر که خیلی مهمه و سرنوشت سازتر از اینجاست. Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Recognize Hazara Genocide! Being a Hazara is not a crime! Stop Hazara Genocide!
Thank you everyone for coming here today to show your support. We hope this support is continued and long-lasting. Please remember, this is not only a war against Hazaras, but it's a war against women and their basic human rights. No one, and I emphasize on that, no one should ever be killed for going to school. Thank you.
روانی پاک شهدای دانایی. طی چند سال اخیر ما جمعی از بهترین هایمان را از دست داده ایم و شمولی گلهای پرپر شده یک کار. من امروز به عنوان یک دختر هزاره عرضی تسلیت دارم خدمت تمام ملت هزاره، به خصوص پدران، مادران و فامیل هایی که فرزندانشان را در راه علم و دانش از دست دادند. ما امروز ترانه‌ای داریم که می‌خواهیم برای هزاره ها به خوانش بگیریم که این ترانه صدای ما در برابر
Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Stop Hazara Genocide! Recognize Hazara Genocide! Hazara right is a human right! Hazara right is a human right! We want justice!
We want justice!
We want justice!
We want justice!
Being a Hazara is not a crime!
Being Hazara is not a crime!
Being Hazara is not a crime!
Being Hazara is
From the bottom of your heart, I want to hear it! Raise your hand! Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Recognize Hazara Genocide!
Recognize Hazara Genocide!
Recognize Hazara Genocide!
Recognize Hazara Genocide!
We want justice!
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 Hazara rights!
Human rights!
Hazara rights!
Human rights!
Hazara rights!
Human rights!
Hazara rights!
Human rights!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
I don't see many hands, brothers and sisters. Raise your hands, raise your voice, all the way to Kabul. Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Recognize Hazara Genocide!
Recognize Hazara Genocide!
Recognize Hazara Genocide!
Recognize Hazara Genocide!
Human rights! Hazara rights!
Human rights!
Hazara rights!
Human rights!
Hazara rights!
Human rights!
We want justice!
We want justice!
We want justice!
We want justice!
Hazara rights!
Human rights!
Hazara rights!
Human rights!
Hazara rights!
Human rights!
Hazara rights!
Human rights!
Raise your hands, everyone! Hazara rights!
Human rights!
We want justice!
We want justice!
Hazara rights! Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Stop Hazara Genocide!
Recognize Hazara Genocide!
Recognize Hazara Genocide!
Being Hazara is not a crime!
Being Hazara is not a crime!
Being Hazara is not a crime!
Being Hazara is not a crime! We want justice!
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 Hazara rights!
Human rights!
دوستا همه توییتر آواز میگرفتش.
به پایان برنامه نزدیک میشویم. تشکر تمام هموطنان، دوستان و حامیان المللی، همه انسان‌های آزاده برای دفاع از کرامت انسانی انسان هزاره افغانستان به میدان آمدند. هزاره، پشتون، تاجیک، ازبک، همه اقوام افغانستان و امروز هم در جمع ما هموطنان عزیز ما از تمام اقوام حضور دارند. بیاییم همه دست به دست هم بدیم برای همیشه بی‌عدالتی، ظلم و تبعیض را از این وطن دور بکنیم تا همه بتوانیم در کمال آرامش این وطن را به مکان برای زندگی و هم تبدیل بکنیم. اما رقم که اعلام شد ادامه کار یک تمام شبکه‌های اجتماعی به شمول توییتر، فیسبوک و تمام راههایی که می توانیم با هم رابطه بگیریم و جامعه جهانی را متوجه نسل کشی مردم ما در افغانستان بکنیم، باید او را جدی پیگیری بکنیم. اونایی که تا امروز توییتر نداشتن از امروز شروع بکنیم.
دوستان رابیش را برای خود بگیرید، بوترهای آب و هر چیز که دارین، پلاکارد یا پوستری که یا برای خورده همون را برای خود ببرین لطفاً. در برگشت هم احتیاط کنیم. تشکر. پلاکاردهایی که از خود شما نیست لطفاً میره سر زینا بمونید.